There are moments in history when heaven's calendar aligns with Earth's timeline in such a profound way that everything changes. I believe with all my heart that we are approaching such a moment as we enter the month of May. What I'm about to share with you isn't speculation. It's revelation that has been confirmed through patterns, signs, and divine whispers that cannot be ignored. For the past 20 years, I've studied the ancient mysteries, the prophetic patterns, and the divine appointments that mark significant shifts in spiritual history. And I can tell you with absolute certainty, God has marked the start of May as a pivotal moment for those who have eyes to see and hearts prepared to receive. The ancient Hebrews understood something we've largely forgotten, that time isn't simply a linear progression of random events, but a divinely orchestrated canvas on which the Creator paints His purposes. They recognized that certain seasons carried special significance, moments when the veil between heaven and earth grew thin, when divine intervention became more pronounced, when human destiny aligned with heavenly design. May represents such a season. Let me take you back to a discovery that shook me to my core 3 years ago. I was researching historical patterns of spiritual awakening, moments when heaven seemed to touch earth with extraordinary power, and noticed something remarkable. An overwhelming number of these awakenings began in the spring months, with an astonishing concentration in early May. The Great Awakening that transformed America? Its most powerful manifestations began in early May. The Welsh revival that saw entire communities transformed? Early May. The Azusa Street outpouring that changed the landscape of faith globally? Early May. The Jesus movement that swept through a generation? Its catalytic moments? Early May. This pattern wasn't coincidental, it was prophetic. It was as if God had circled the beginning of May on heaven's calendar as a recurring appointment for divine visitation. But the significance goes deeper. In ancient agricultural societies, early May marked the time when seeds planted earlier would first break through the soil, when what had been hidden in darkness finally emerged into the light. It represented the visible manifestation of invisible potential, the tangible evidence of faith in what couldn't be seen. Your life follows this same divine pattern. For many of you reading this message, the past season has felt like a time of burial. Your dreams, your calling, your God-given purpose, seemingly hidden beneath the soil of disappointment, delay, or difficulty. You've questioned whether what God planted within you would ever see the light of day. You've wondered if the seeds of destiny would remain forever dormant. I've come to tell you, May is your month of emergence. What God has been cultivating in secret is about to become visible. The dreams that seemed dead are about to sprout with unexpected life. The divine design for your existence is about to manifest with unmistakable clarity. Let me share a personal story that illustrates this truth. 5 years ago, I met a woman named Rachel at a conference where I was speaking. After my session on divine timing, she approached me with tears streaming down her face. For 7 years, she had carried a vision for a ministry to trafficked women, a calling so clear, so compelling that it consumed her thoughts and prayers. But despite her faithfulness, despite her preparation, despite her unwavering commitment, every door remained closed. Every opportunity evaporated. Every resource dried up. I'm beginning to think I imagined the whole thing, she confessed. Maybe it was just my idea, not God's. As she spoke, I felt a sudden clarity, a divine download of insight about her situation. Rachel, I said, you haven't been experiencing rejection. You've been experiencing protection. The timing hasn't been right until now. But this May, everything changes. She looked at me skeptically, having heard prophetic words before that never materialized. But something resonated deep within her spirit, and she chose to believe. 2 weeks into May, Rachel received a phone call from a philanthropist she'd never met who had heard about her vision through a mutual connection. Not only did he provide the startup funding she needed, but he offered her a building perfectly suited for the ministry, a property that had just become available the first week of May. Within 30 days, a vision that had seemed dead for 7 years was suddenly thriving with vibrant life. When I reconnected with Rachel a year later, her ministry had rescued over 100 women from trafficking and was expanding into 3 additional cities. The seeds of her calling, long buried beneath the soil of waiting, had finally broken through in extraordinary fashion. In May, just as God had planned. Your story may look different from Rachel's, but the principle remains the same. Divine purpose operates on divine timing. The question isn't whether God has a destiny for you. He absolutely does. The question isn't whether that destiny is significant. It's more magnificent than you can imagine. The question is whether you'll align yourself with heaven's calendar and position yourself for what begins in May. Throughout history, those who accomplished the most extraordinary things were rarely the most talented, the most educated, or the most privileged. They were simply those who recognized divine timing and positioned themselves accordingly. They understood that being in the right place, at the right time, with the right heart posture, was more important than human striving or strategic planning. So how do you position yourself for what God has planned at the start of May? Let me share 5 keys that have been revealed to those who understand spiritual timing. First, practice intentional expectancy. Expectancy isn't passive waiting, it's active preparation for what you know is coming. Just as an expectant mother prepares a nursery before her child arrives, your expectancy creates space for God's promises to be born in your life. Each morning of May, awaken with deliberate expectancy, not a vague hope that something good might happen, but a confident anticipation that today could be the day of divine manifestation. Second, engage in prophetic preparation. In the natural realm, we prepare after we receive, after the job offer comes, after the relationship begins, after the opportunity presents itself. But in the spiritual realm, we prepare before we receive. Your preparation becomes prophetic declaration that what God has promised will come to pass. Ask yourself, if my breakthrough began in May, what would I be doing differently right now? Then start doing those things. Third, cultivate heightened spiritual sensitivity. During pivotal seasons on heaven's calendar, divine guidance intensifies. Impressions become stronger. Dreams become more vivid. Seemingly random encounters carry greater significance. The question isn't whether God is speaking. He absolutely is. The question is whether you're attuned to hear him. Create space for solitude and silence each day in May. Eliminate distractions that dull your spiritual senses. Position yourself to receive the divine downloads that will direct your steps. Fourth, execute immediate obedience. In seasons of divine acceleration, delayed obedience can mean missed opportunity. When heaven's calendar aligns with Earth's timeline, things happen quickly. Doors that have been closed for years suddenly open, but they may not remain open indefinitely. When divine direction comes, whether through scripture, godly counsel, or that inner knowing, respond with immediate action. Your swift obedience creates momentum that carries you into your destiny. Fifth, embrace prophetic community. No significant destiny is fulfilled in isolation. God's plans for you are connected to his plans for others. As May unfolds, pay attention to divine connections, people who suddenly cross your path with unexpected frequency, conversations that resonate with what God has been speaking to your heart, relationships that energize your spirit rather than drain it. These connections aren't coincidental, they're providential. They're part of the divine choreography that will dance your destiny into existence. My friend, I don't know your specific situation. I don't know what dreams lie buried in the soil of your heart. I don't know what promises you've been holding on to through long seasons of waiting. But this I know with absolute certainty. God has marked the beginning of May as a divine appointment on heaven's calendar. For some reading this message, May will mark the beginning of a ministry that impacts thousands. For others, it will launch a business that creates provision and purpose. For still others, it will initiate restoration in relationships that seemed irreparably broken. For many, it will unveil creative gifts that have lain dormant, waiting for their appointed time of expression. The specific manifestation will differ from person to person, but the timing remains consistent. God has said it's all planned for the start of May. Will you be ready? Will you be positioned? Will you be one who recognizes the divine moment when it arrives? Remember this truth. In God's kingdom, timing isn't about dates on a calendar. It's about destiny alignment. When your preparation meets God's timing, miracles aren't just possible, they're inevitable. The countdown has begun. The heavenly calendar has been marked. The divine appointment has been set. May is coming. Your destiny is awakening. Your moment of emergence is at hand.